From the Home Office in, and at this point Matt checks his notes, Easton, Pennsylvania, Zipper. Zipper says,
"Hi Matt, I hope you enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Here's my question for Dave." "Hi Dave, there's always something special when you sit down with someone and have a conversation about comics. Your weekly update number 552 was spectacular. What a wonderful recap story by Tim Stolfus about the script for Spawn 10. My question is, what kind of chair are you sitting on? It's not something you normally see as a piece of furniture in a living room. Michael R."
Good point, Michael. Good point. And that brings us to Wikipedia was cooperative when I went to the Wi-Fi place on this one, which is why it made it even more suspect that it was just Wi-Fi was not going to give me George Floyd or anything having to do with Minneapolis or possibly with the governor. Move along, nothing to see here. That's called a Wassily chair, also known as the Model B3 chair. Was designed by Marcel Breuer in 1925-1926 while he was the head of the cabinet-making workshop at the Bauhaus in Dessau, Germany. Despite popular belief, the chair was not designed specifically for the non-objective painter Wassily Kandinsky, who was on the Bauhaus faculty at the same time. Kandinsky had admired the completed design, and Breuer fabricated a duplicate for Kandinsky's personal quarters. The chair became known as Wassily decades later when it was released by Italian manufacturer Gavina, which had learned of the anecdotal Kandinsky connection in the course of its research on the chair's origins. And if you want to read more, it's about a 2-page Wikipedia page. So we'll skip down to the punchline. This chair was revolutionary in the use of the materials, bent tubular steel and Isengard, and methods of manufacturing. In 1925, Breuer purchased his first bicycle, and he was impressed with the lightness of its tubular steel frame. This inspired him to experiment with using the material in furniture design. The design and all subsequent steel tubing furniture was technologically feasible only because the German steel manufacturer Mannesmann had recently perfected a process for making seamless pipe. Previously, steel tubing had a welded seam which would collapse when the tubing was bent. The Wassily chair, like many other designs of the modernist movement, has been mass-produced since the late 1920s and continuously in production since the 1950s. A design classic is still available today. Though patent designs are expired, the trademark name rights to the design are owned by Knoll of New York City. Reproductions are produced around the world by other manufacturers who market the product under many names. And the reason that I bought a Wassily chair dates back to when I was 11 years old, and I knew exactly what I was looking for. The Spectre number 3, April 1968. I got a store stamp on the front of my copy that I bought off the newsstand January 17th, 1968. And it's one of Mike Friedrich's earliest scripts on the Spectre, and one of the earliest Neil Adams jobs for DC Comics. Hang 'em up, Wildcat, you're finished. And it's on page 4, which I had Rolly scan and email to you, Matt. So the folks should be looking at page 4, which has a great shot at the top of it of Wildcat punching a crook in the gut, as only Neal Adams can do it. But what we're going to focus on is the bottom part of page 4. The caption says, after secretly changing into his alter ego of Ted Grant, Wildcat wearily returns home to his plush apartment. The panel is not that big. It's maybe like 1.5 inches by 2 inches. But I looked at that plush apartment at the age of 11 and went, I want an apartment like that. I want Wildcat's apartment. So bonus brownie points for Neal Adams for, in that little amount of space, putting together a plush apartment, as described by Mike Friedrich, that made an 11-year-old boy go, someday I'm going to have an apartment like that. And sure enough, Penthouse 6 at 221 Queen Street South. I didn't know it when I was starting to decorate, but I had money to play with for the first time in my life. And it was only after I'd been doing it for a while that I went, oh, I know where this part, where all of my design ideas are coming from. They're coming from that panel in Spectre number 3 in 1968. So there you go, Michael. We always try to give Zipper a thorough answer anytime he asks a question. So there's as thorough an answer as I can give you on that one.
So it's funny because this actually sparked something in the back of my head that I went, oh yeah. So you saw this panel and went, I want that apartment. And, looking at the panel, everybody that's looking at it's going, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. Dave's a Neal Adams fan. It's a good Neal Adams panel. That's a logical decision to make. I mean, well, illogical comic fan, but logical for a comic fan, So somebody on, I think it was Twitter, it might have been Facebook, a couple of years back, was looking to reproduce Peter Parker's apartment from the early 1980s Spider-Man strips. The thing about Peter's apartment was, he was a broke college student that was living, paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. He had no money. The only thing in his apartment from the early 80s that you could even consider to be valuable was he had a Nagel print. And this guy, because in the apartment it's a Nagel print, there's a beat up thrift store couch that maybe even Peter got it off the curb. He's got his coffee table is a old wire spool with all the wire off of it. It's one of those wooden spools. And he's got bookshelves. And the guy that was asking him, he who's saying that he's trying to recreate Peter's apartment, and he's trying to figure out where can he buy these bookshelves. And I'm an old Spider-Man fan, so I know exactly what this guy's talking about. And I'm like, you can't buy them. And the guy was like, what? And I'm like, it's cinder blocks and 1x6s. Like, you literally go to the hardware store and come home with the cheapest crap you can use to make a bookshelf.
Right.
And the guy was like, no. I've seen photos of these. They sold these, and I'm like, no, not as a bookshelf. They sold it as, hey, want to build a house?
Right. And it's like, oh, we're gonna be so clever and figure out how to save myself money, but this will become the new fashion in New York City, and then circle the globe.
Well, and what I love about it is, like, I remember there was a Spider-Man annual where it was, it's the old Stan Lee era Secrets of Spider-Man, and the entire annual was just all the padded stuff that normally they throw in the back of the annual. And one of the things was, it was, quote, photos of Peter's apartment. It's a drawing of what the apartment looks like. And I'm thinking, why would anyone look at the panel of this apartment and think, I want to live there?
Uh-huh. Well, if you live inside your comic books, and 11-year-old Dave Sim definitely lived inside his comic books and was just discovering Neil Adams. Like I said, this Spectre #3, apart from Neil's work on Dead Man, this was just when he was starting to spread his wings at DC, and they were letting him do it.